Hello and welcome to the program. I am Suren. Do you notice how people all around the world are getting angrier and angrier each day? It seems, according to all the news we are hearing, the world has become more and more angrier place to live in. Do you know or remember the phrase which says, if everyone would clean their own front yard, the whole street will become cleaner? Similarly, if we can all tackle this issue of anger singularly and individually becoming more controlled in the issues of anger, would it help the world to become a better, adjusted, and more controlled and happier place? Do you experience anger? What do you feel when you are angry about something or somebody? Do you retaliate? Or do you think probably that it could be avoided? Are you a conflict seeker or a peacemaker? Can you manage your emotions, particularly those of the negative kind, such as anger? Emotions are normal human experiences, especially when considering the anger management issues, which involve the recognition of triggers and symptoms and utilizing techniques like deep breathing, relaxation, and cognitive restructuring to control the reactions. Jealousy, on the other hand, is a separate emotion, often linked to feelings of insecurity or threat, which can be managed by building self-confidence, practicing gratitude, improving communication skills with a partner, and setting clear boundaries. Understanding emotions. Let's talk about that for a moment. As we all can understand that the emotions are very natural. Anger, fear, excitement, and jealousy are all normal feelings that can trigger the body's fight or flight responses, flooding the body sometimes with stress hormones. They stem from interpretations of our thoughts, interpretations of events, and coping skills. They all influence how we experience emotions, not the other people. We mentioned of anger management. But what is it How can you do it? Recognize the triggers that you can identify what causes your anger, such as feeling humiliated, resentful, or overwhelmed. Identify warning signs. Pay attention to physical symptoms like an increased heart rate or the urge to lose your temper. Here are some considerations you can help yourself with. Practice calming techniques. Deep breathing is a very practical and easily achieved start. Use controlled breathing or relaxation exercises to calm your body. Next, consider cognitive restructuring. Challenge exaggerated or irrational thoughts and replace them with rational ones. Personally, I like some humor. Use humor to gain perspective and release tension. Respond constructively. Think before you speak. Slow down and consider your responses. The expertly advised is also to use I statements. Express your feelings assertively without blaming others. Find solutions. Brainstorm solutions to the problem that triggered your anger in the first place. Well, you know what to do. Take a time out. Step away from the situation to calm down. Managing jealousy. That's a thought. Reflect on the feelings, pause, and try to understand the root cause of your jealousy, which may stem from a sense of powerlessness. Boost your confidence, focus on self-improvement, and build your own self-worth. This following we cannot emphasize enough. Practice gratitude. Shift your focus to the positive aspects of your life and relationships. Improve communication skills. Talk openly with your partner about your feelings, your work, your schooling, and building trust. Set clear boundaries, establish clear expectations and boundaries in your relationship to prevent misunderstandings, particularly in future terms. Control your anger before it controls you. You see, anger can make you feel as though you are at the mercy of an unpredictable and powerful emotion. Learn how to control it. We all know what anger is and does, and we have all felt it, whether as a fleeting annoyance or as full-fledged rage. Anger is a completely normal and usually pretty healthy human condition, right? But when it gets out of control and turns destructive, it can lead to huge problems, like problems at work, at school, in your personal relationships, and in the overall general quality of your life. Anger can make you feel as though you are at the mercy of an unpredictable and powerful emotion, as I said before. But I still ask, what is anger? To start, let's consider the nature of anger. Firstly, anger is an emotional state that varies in intensity from mild irritation to intense fury and rage. According to Charles Spielberger, PhD, a psychologist who specializes in the study of anger, explains. Like other emotions, it is accompanied by physiological and biological changes. And when you get angry, your heart rate and blood pressure goes up, as do the levels of your energy hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. Anger can be caused by both external and internal events. You could be angry at a specific person, such as a friend, co-worker, or supervisor, or an event, a traffic jam, for example, a cancelled flight, or your anger could be caused by worrying or even deeply worrying about your personal problems. Memories of traumatic and raging events can also trigger angry feelings. What about expressing anger? The instinctive, natural way to express anger is to respond, obviously, aggressively. Anger is a natural adaptive response to threats, and it inspires powerful, often aggressive feelings and behaviors, which allow us to fight or to defend ourselves when we are attacked. A certain amount of anger, therefore, can become necessary to our survival. On the other hand, we cannot physically lash out at every person like extremely biased, primitively racist individuals do, or an object that irritates or annoys them, while laws, social norms, and common sense place limits on how far their anger can take them. People use a variety of both conscious and unconscious processes to deal with their anger feelings. The three main approaches are expressing, suppressing, and calming. Now, expressing your angry feelings is an assertive, not aggressive manner in the healthiest way to express anger. To do this, you have to learn how to make clear what your needs are and how to get them without hurting others. Being assertive does not mean being pushy or demanding. It means being respectful of yourself and others. It was only recently I have been subjected to pushiness of certain individuals whom I didn't know, who obviously did not like my appearance in Melbourne, Australia, in a shopping center. Anger of any kind, however, can be suppressed and then converted or redirected. If this happens, when you hold in your anger, stop thinking about it and focus on something positive. The aim is to inhibit or suppress your anger and convert it into more constructive behavior. The danger in this type of response, that if is not allowed as an outward expression, your anger can turn inward on yourself. Anger turned in with hypertension, high blood pressure, or depression can play havoc with your well-being. Unexpressed anger can also create many other problems. It can lead to pathological expressions of anger, such as passive-aggressive behavior, getting back at people indirectly without telling them why, rather than confronting them head-on, or a personality that seems perpetually cynical and hostile. People who are constantly putting others down, criticizing everything, and making cynical comments have not learned how to constructively express their anger. Not surprisingly, they are not likely to have many successful relationships. Finally, you can come down inside. This means not just controlling your outward behavior, but also controlling your internal responses, taking steps to lower your heart rate, calm yourself down, and let the feelings subside. As Dr. Spielberger writes, when none of these three techniques work, that is when someone or something is going to get hurt. Here is a little more on anger management. The goal of anger management is to reduce both your emotional feelings and physiological arousal that the emotion of anger causes. You cannot get rid of or avoid the things of the people that raise them, nor can you change them, but you can learn to control your own reactions. Are you very angry? There are physiological tests that can measure the intensity of angry feelings, how prone to anger you are, and how well you handle it. But chances are good that if you do have a problem with anger, you already know it. If you find yourself acting in ways that seem out of control and frightening, you might need help finding better ways to deal with this emotion. Why are some people more angry than others? Good question. According to Jerry Diefenbacher, some people really are more hot-headed than others are. They get angry more easily and more intensely than the average person does. There are also those who don't show their anger in loud, spectacular ways, but are chronically irritable and grumpy. Good people do not always curse and throw things around. Sometimes they withdraw socially, sulk, or get physically ill. People who are easily in good state generally have what some psychologists call a low tolerance for frustration, meaning simply that they feel that they should not have to be subjected to frustration, inconvenience, or annoyance. They cannot take things in stride, and they are particularly infuriated if the situation seems somehow unjust. For example, being corrected for a minor mistake. For instance, having said the wrong word or a word wrongly. What makes these people the way they are? Well, there are a number of things. One is, of course, that it may be genetic or physiological. There is evidence that some children, for instance, are born irritable, touchy, and easily angered, and that these signs are usually present from a very early age. Another may be sociocultural. Anger is often regarded as negative. We are taught that it is all right to express anxiety, depression, or other emotions, but not to express anger. As a result, we don't learn how to handle it well or channel it constructively. The research has also found that family background plays a role. Typically, people who are originating from families that are disruptive, chaotic, and not skilled at emotional communications. Is it good to let it all hang out? Another good question. Psychologists now say that this is a dangerous myth. Some people use this theory as being licensed to hurt others. Research has found that letting it rip with anger actually escalates anger and aggression and does nothing to help you or the person you are angry with resolving the situation. Dr. Deffenbauer, PhD, a psychologist who specializes in anger management, says it is best to find out what it is that triggers your anger and then to develop strategies to keep those triggers from tipping you over the edge. Strategies to keep anger at bay. Let's consider relaxation. Simple relaxation tools such as deep breathing and relaxing imagery can help calm down angry feelings. There are books and courses that can teach you relaxation techniques. And once you learn those techniques, you can call upon them in any situation. How can one deal with both partners who are hot-tempered? If you are involved in a relationship where both partners are hot-tempered, it might be a good idea for both of them to learn these techniques. Some simple steps you can try. Let's consider them. Again, breathe deeply from your diaphragm. Just breathing from your chest will not relax you. Picture, therefore, your breath coming up from your gut. Slowly repeat a calm word or phrase such as relax, take it easy. Repeat it to yourself while breathing deeply. Use imagery. Visualize a relaxing experience from either your memory or your imagination. Non-strenuous, slow yoga-like exercises can relax your muscles and make you feel much calmer. You may need to practice these techniques daily. Learn to use them automatically when you are in a tense situation. What about cognitive restructuring? Simply put, this means changing the way you think. Angry people tend to curse, swear, or speak in highly colorful terms that reflect their inner thoughts. When you are angry, your thinking can get very exaggerated and overly dramatic. Try replacing these thoughts with more rational ones. For instance, instead of telling yourself, "Oh, it is awful, it is terrible, everything is ruined," tell yourself, "It's frustrating, I know, and it is understandable that I'm upset about it, but it is not the end of the world, and getting angry is not going to fix it anyway." Be careful of words like never or always when talking about yourself or someone else. This bloody machine never works, or you're always forgetting things. I'm not just inaccurate. They also serve to make you feel that your anger is justified and there is no way to solve the problem. They, in fact, alienate and humiliate people who might otherwise be willing to work with you on a solution. Remind yourself that getting angry is not going to fix anything, that it will not make you feel better, and may actually make you feel worse. Logic defeats anger, because anger, even when it is justified, can quickly become irrational. So, use cold, hard logic on yourself. Remind yourself that the world is not out there to get you. You are just experiencing some of the rough spots of the daily life. Do this each time you feel anger getting the best of you, and it will help you get a more balanced perspective. Try it. You see, angry people tend to demand things: fairness, appreciation, agreement, willingness to do things their way. Everyone wants these things, and we are all hurt and disappointed when we don't get them. But angry people demand them. And when their demands are not met, their disappointment becomes anger. As a part of their cognitive restructuring, angry people need to become aware of their demanding nature and translate their expectations into desires. In other words, saying, "I would like something," is healthier than saying, "I demand," or "I must have something." I have experienced this for a very long time with someone who was very rich and pretending to be friends and demanding things to be done only in his own ways. He ended up extremely frustrated in his mental state. He also experienced absolute anger. When you are unable to get what you want, you will experience normal reactions: frustration, disappointment, hurt, but not necessarily anger under normal circumstances. Some angry people use anger as a way to avoid feeling hurt, but that does not mean the hurt goes away. What about problem solving? Sometimes our anger and frustration are caused by very real but almost impossible problems in our lives. However, not all anger is misplaced, and often it is a healthy, natural response to these difficulties. There is also a cultural belief that every problem has a solution, and it adds to our frustration to find out that this is not always the case. The best attitude to bring to such a situation then is not to focus on finding a solution, but rather on how you handle and face the problem. It is important, therefore, to make a plan and check your progress along the way. Resolve to give it your best, but also not to punish yourself if an answer doesn't come right away. If you can, approach it with your best intentions and efforts and make a serious attempt to face it head on. You will be less likely to lose patience and fall into all or nothing thinking, even if the problem does not get solved right away. Then we're talking about better communication, right? Angry people tend to jump to and act on assumptions and conclusions. And some of those conclusions can be very inaccurate. The first thing to do if you are in a heated discussion is to slow down and think through your responses. Don't say the first thing that comes into your mind, into your head, but slow down and carefully consider about what you want to say. At the same time, listen carefully to what the other person is saying and take your time before answering. Listen to what is underlying the anger. For instance, you like a certain amount of freedom, and personal space, and your significant other ones want more connection and closeness. If he or she starts complaining about your activities, do not retaliate by painting your partner as a jailer, or a warden, or an albatross around your neck. It is natural to get defensive when you are criticized, but don't fight back. Instead, listen to what is underlining the words, the message. For instance, that this person might feel neglected and unloved. It may take a lot of patience questioning on your part, and it may require some breathing space. But don't let your anger or your partner's let the discussion spin out of control. Keeping your cool can keep the situation from becoming a disastrous one. Let's use humor. Using humor. Often, a silly humor can help diffuse rage in a number of ways. For one thing, you can help yourself get a more balanced perspective. When you get angry and call someone a name or refer to them in some imaginative phrase, stop and picture what that word would literally look like. I read that somewhere. If you are at work and you think of a co-worker as a dirtbag or a single-cell life form, for example, picture a large bag full of dirt or an amoeba sitting at your colleague's desk, talking on the telephone, going to meetings. Do this whenever a name comes into your head about another person. If you can, draw a picture of what the actual thing might look like. This will take a lot of the edge of your fury, and humor can always be relied on to help and not intensify the situation. The underlying message of highly angry people, Dr. Deffenbacher says, is the things go that my way. Angry people tend to feel that they are morally right, and that any blocking or changing of their plans is an unbearable indignity, and that they should not have to suffer this way. Maybe even other people do, but not them. When you feel the urge, he suggests, picture them as a god or goddess, a supreme ruler who owns the streets and stores and an office space. This alone, and having your way in all situations while others defer to you. The more detail you can get into your imaginary scenes, the more chances you have to realize that maybe you are being unreasonable. You will also realize how unimportant the things you're angry about really are. There are two questions in using humor. Firstly, don't try to just laugh off your problems. Rather, use humor to help yourself face them more constructively. Secondly, don't give in to harsh, sarcastic humor. That is just another form of unhealthy anger expression. What these techniques have in common is a refusal to take yourself too seriously. Anger is indeed a serious emotion, but it is often accompanied by ideas that, if examined, can make you laugh. That's a fact. What about frustration? In psychology, frustration is a common emotional response to opposition. related to anger, annoyance, and disappointment. Frustration arises from the perceived resistance to the fulfillment of an individual's will or goal, and is likely to increase when a will or goal is denied or blocked. So, how can you deal with frustration? That's another good question. Take a short break and try deep breathing to calm yourself down. Then address the situation by changing your perspective, managing expectations, or distracting yourself with a positive activity. Other strategies include getting physical exercise, writing in a notebook or a journal to understand your feelings, talking to a trusted friend, practicing mindfulness, and ensuring you have basic needs like sleep and regular meals. Take a step back from the situation and focus on slow, deep breaths to calm your nervous system and your mind. Change the scene. Physically, remove yourself, if you must, from the stressful environment by going for a walk, taking a short nap, or moving to a different room. Distract yourself, shift your focus to something else, like a puzzle, music, singing, painting, or a creative activity. Talk it out. Confide in a trusted friend, a family member if you have any, or counselor to gain perspective and support. Long-term solutions and prevention. Exercise regularly. Physical activity can help you release pent-up energy and improve your general mood and ability to cope. Practice mindfulness. Focus on the present moment, non-judgmentally, to observe your feelings without being overwhelmed by them. Manage expectations. Be realistic about what you can accomplish and be flexible in your approach to goals. Keeping a notebook or journaling. Write down, if you like, your thoughts and feelings to clarify them and better understand the sources of your frustration. Address basic needs. Prioritize your sleep, a balanced diet, and regular meals, as unmet basic needs can contribute to increased feelings of frustration. Changing your mindset. Recognize and accept. Acknowledge your frustration rather than fighting it, understanding that it is a temporary emotion. Reframe your thoughts. Challenge exaggerated or overly dramatic thoughts by replacing them with more rational and balanced ones. Practice gratitude. Focusing on the things you are grateful for can help shift your perspective away from unresolved problems. How can you do it easier? Follow the suggestions we have already listed. Frustration is a type of emotional reaction to stress. It is common to have this feeling when you encounter daily stressors at home, at school, at work, at shopping centers, or as in relationships. For example, you might get frustrated when your partner forgets to take care of an important errand, such as cleaning the dust Or you might become frustrated with yourself for how you responded to your partner's mistake. This feeling of frustration is often short-lived and tends to pass as the situation changes. But sometimes, such as when you find yourself falling short of your aspirations, it can be longer lasting and take a more serious role or even toll, and your health and your well-being would be affected. If you are feeling frustrated, it is essential to get to the bottom of these emotions and find ways to cope. You can probably remind yourself how you can deal with frustration by reminding yourself that it is a temporary emotion, by finding ways to distract yourself, by using mindfulness to focus on the moment without judgment, by using breathing exercises to calm down quickly, by consciously shifting your attitude to be more positive, by talking it out with your friends. Remember that all of us feel stressed from time to time and frustrated occasionally, but we don't need to allow these feelings to take over our life. By managing our responses to stress and frustration, we can reduce their impact and improve our overall or general well-being. What are the signs of frustration, you might ask? Well, anger or losing your temper, avoiding the people you are frustrated with, experiencing changes in your eating habits, feeling annoyed all the time, feeling anxious or on the edge, getting overwhelmed and giving up on tasks, having trouble sleeping or experiencing other changes in your sleeping patterns under normal circumstances, irritability, using alcohol or nicotine or other substances to cope with the situation. It is also common for people to engage in physical actions to express feelings of frustration. They might frown, tap their feet, or engage in other repetitive bodily movements that express their feelings of annoyance and displeasure. And so, what causes frustration? Again, well, frustration tends to happen when your goals or expectations don't pan out. You might be engaging in an action or effort that does not work as expected or produce the results that you wanted. And so, what are the common causes of frustration again? Daily hassles, finances, interpersonal conflicts, relationships, stressful current world events. Listen to your news. Work-related or school-related problems. Frustrated people consider frustration comes usually in two forms. Internal and external. These sources of frustration can arise from either internal or external causes, I should say. Internal frustration involves feeling unhappy with some aspect of yourself whether it is your efforts or behaviors. External frustration involves being stressed by something in your external environment. For instance, getting stuck in traffic when you are in a hurry to get to work or school is one example. What does frustration affect you with? It creates irritability and annoyance. It can also have more lasting effects on your health and well-being. Research suggests that after a frustrating event, people are left with a lingering mixture of emotions, including anger, stress, sadness, and rage. Frustration can also lead to other problems such as aggression. Feelings of anger can lead to aggression that may be directed at yourself or at others. Depression. Over time, frustration and disappointment can contribute to feelings of sadness and depression. Poor self-esteem. Frustration may also cause you to lose confidence in yourself, particularly when the sources of your feelings tend to be internal. Unhealthy behaviors. It is not uncommon for people to cope with feelings of frustration in maladaptive ways, such as turning to alcohol, drugs, food, or other behaviors that can negatively impact health. Stress and frustration are connected. Both of these feelings acted on each other. Feeling stressed can cause you to experience frustration, and frustrating situations often generate stress. Stress can make you feel more emotionally reactive to events that normally would not bother you, and it can reduce your tolerance for frustration. Small failures can seem much worse and much more frustrating. Chronic stress may cause you to feel like you are not in control of your own life, leading to further frustration and even depression. Managing stress can help you alleviate feelings or frustration, and improving your tolerance for frustration may help lower your stress levels. That's where we are at. Let's stop this episode here for now. Keep smiling. Be happy. We will meet you again within the next episode. And thank you.